Mission's media briefing. The MEC will be giving us an update as anticipated that we should be closing tomorrow, but probably MEC will be giving us more details on how we've managed and how we're moving forward. Later we'll give you an opportunity to ask questions. MEC?
Thank you. I know it's a Sunday. It feels a bit tense here. Good morning. Thank you very much for coming through. As outlined by Steve, we're providing an update on learner placement and admission, the whole process as to where we are, and then how do we move forward. We are aware that on the 9th and early hours of the 10th of August, the system went down. We were alerted by a number of parents that they were struggling to upload and complete the applications. So it was an issue with CETA. So they were able to resolve it by the 10th later on in the day. But then what that meant is that parents had lost 2 days, crucial 2 days. We then therefore took a decision to extend the closing date from the 12th, which should have been tomorrow, midnight, to the 14th, midnight. So the closing date is moved from the 12th tomorrow to the 14th, which is Wednesday midnight, for parents to apply and complete the application. Firstly, as a department, we appreciate the confidence that parents continue to show in public education. We are pleased to announce that we've had over 768,666 applications, which currently it's more by 11,991 from the previous academic year. This actually proves that, as we've always been saying around Gauteng and public education system, that it's a growing system. And these numbers demonstrate that by the 11,991 more applications from the previous academic year. And we're anticipated to grow a bit because of the additional 2 days, 3 days, 2 days that we have added as parents complete the applications. So since the deadline has been moved from the 14th, the deadline for submission of documents for parents to comply and have complete applications is the 21st of August by 12 noon. So all parents by that time should have completed their applications. So by 12 noon, 21 August is the deadline for all documents. So parents will have 7 days after the closing date on the 14th rather, to provide all the necessary documents so that the applications can be completed. And the applications have been the same consistently. The proof of home address and all of them must be uploaded and completed by that date. And I want to urge parents that let's avoid fraudulent documents, because once we pick them up, you would have submitted and then the deadline has passed, the 21st has passed, you've submitted fraudulent document. That means the application has failed. So to consider an incomplete application. So make sure that you comply fully with the necessary documents that we require. And the documents are always it's the same, your ID, permanent residence permit if you are here, proof of home address rather, work address, more importantly if the learner is going to grade 8, the most recent grade 7 report, and for grade 1 we want clinic card or immunization. You know, these tongue twister words, I don't like them. So, yeah. It's immunization. Is it correct? Immunization. Yes. I'm beginning to sound like one former leader of this. Therefore, the proof of address remains the most critical of the addresses. So, municipal accounts not older than 3 months. I have to stress this because these are necessary for the school to recognize your application. And then if you are renting, the lease agreement, payment, rental, just to demonstrate this, just follow the requirements that we need so that your application is recognized. And this is a very simple process. It requires patience from the parents. Just take time and go and ensure that you comply, and the application will be considered as complete. So currently we're sitting with over 96,411 incomplete applications. And they are characterized as such. 29,174 are parents who have completed step 1 until step 3, which is the details of the parents and the details of the learner. And to a large extent, they did not even complete the schools they prefer and other documents, even step 4 and going forward. And 67,237 parents moved to reach step 4, meaning that they completed the application in the form of their names, the learners, and schools, but didn't complete the application. They need to submit the documents. So they ended at step 4. So this is it's a big number, 96,000. That's almost 100,000 that is incomplete. So I'm urging these parents that please, you have this time period towards the 21st to really complete your applications. Otherwise, your application will be considered as incomplete and it will not be considered when we are beginning to place learners. So these 96,000 parents, please just complete your application, and then we'll be able to then consider them complete, and then we'll be able to place your child in time and at the schools. So they have up until the 21st, this 96,000. So the SMS is still continuing. The SMSs are still updating these parents. As we've said, that we improved communication. The SMSs are still coming to remind parents that you have not completed your application, you are short of this document, you are short of that document. It will always communicate with you. So parents, take this into consideration and go and verify and make sure that the applications are complete. You have completed fully. The placement period will begin on the 16th of September. That's when the first batch of communication will go out. 16th of September, parents will start getting SMSs, placement offers. And this will continue until the last learner. So I don't want to say parents, they say on the 16th of September, I didn't get anything, I didn't hear anything. We are going to be placing learners up until we're done with the last learner, like we've always been doing. So what we ask from parents is patience with this process of placement, especially because there are certain schools that were parents preferred over others. So we're asking for patience from parents. The cell phone, the number, I've always stressed the number. Make sure that number is the one is active. And you must remember all your details, your username and password at all times. So from the 16th of September, go and check on the system of your placement offers. The criteria, first one is home address within the school feeder zone. Second one is sibling and previous schools. Third is work address within the school feeder zone. The fourth one is the 30-kilometer radius. within the 30 kilometers, and the fifth one is beyond the 30 kilometers. Those are the 5 criteria points that we use. But the most critical one is the home address. So that's where most parents will begin to, when we begin placement, will be working within that respect of home address. As I've said earlier, that we have received, there are schools that have been oversubscribed, or the applications have gone beyond the capacity of the school. Within primary school, out of the 1,403 primary schools we have in the province, 840 had more applications than the capacity of the school. So within these 840 primary schools, some of the parents will not get their learners placed in those schools. In high schools, secondary schools, out of the 660, we have 310, which they've got more application than the school capacity. So that's the situation. So those parents who have applied in these 310 secondary schools and 840 primary schools will require patience from them, as and when we place that. Not all learners will be placed in that school, in those schools, but post that we'll also look at some of the schools you have chosen, and then within that, if none of those schools that you have chosen you are unsuccessful, we'll then make you an offer, transfer offer, and then there's also an appeal process, which I will we'll talk to later on. So patience is required. We've got a slide here for the top 10 schools with most applications. As you can see, the pressure points continue. Tshwane West, Ekurhuleni South, and Tshwane West. That's where most of the pressure areas. Large School Acacia, with a capacity of only 240 spaces, you've got 1,418 applications. And then that goes down to the Eden Park in Ekurhuleni South, primary 240 and 916 applications. So you can see that over 700 of these learners will not be placed in that school. So we can only take 240 for that school. In high school, it's the same. Tshwane West now. Tshwane West continues, Ekurhuleni South, Joburg East, and Joburg Central. You've got Hoërskool Langehoven with 300 spaces, but we've got 2,936. So that's 2,600 more applications for that school, but it's only got capacity for 300. And as you can see, obviously some of our township schools are also here. Katleong Secondary School here with 400 capacity of 400, we've got 2,118. So these are big numbers, especially in high schools. These are big numbers. So parents must be patient. St. John Adamson High School, 460, 2075. So these are big numbers. So we've got almost 1,600 of these learners who have applied will not be going to this school. But we'll look at other schools within the application that the parent would have chosen, because for us, when you give us 5 options, we take those 5 options as your preferred schools. We don't say because you chose today we're in Rosefield, you chose Rosefields, for example, then we must go and find your space in Rosefield because you put Rosefield first. That's not how we look at it. We look at it as 5 schools that, as a parent, you are happy if your child can go to any of these 5. It's only when we are unable to find a space in these 5 that you have chosen, then we put you on transfer, then we allow you the process of appeal, etc. So when you put in transfer, we'll look at schools that are next closest to you with available spaces. Because I always say this is about trust issues as well. And as I go back, let me go back to the slide of high schools. Parktown Boys, It's a public school, but it's not a cheap public school. I think the fees go up to, if not 100. It's not a cheap public school. So you have 2,278 applicants. And it goes to say that what I always say, that parents don't necessarily prefer private schools. They go to private schools, especially in Gauteng, and I'm speaking very confidently about this, that they go to private schools because of spaces, when there are challenges of spaces in public. But parents in Gauteng prefer public schools over and above private schools, because they could have gone to any other school, but they chose a public school that costs as much as a private school, if not more, than some of the Kuros and F-Tech schools. So that goes to JP High School for boys as well. It's not a cheap school. It's a relatively expensive school. But look at the application, 2,089. So we've got much to appreciate about our public education system, and the confidence that the parents in Gauteng and the residents of Gauteng, the confidence that they have in it. So the transfer, objections and appeal process is outlined. Parents will have 7 days to accept or decline, and within that, if they accept, then the learner is placed there. If they don't accept or decline, the learner will be placed in the school. So if they decline, they will have 7 days literally to say we are declining and launch an objection, and they will have to give the department 14 days to respond. And the final outcome and final decision ends with the MEC. So once I've made a decision that that's the final appeal process, but there's also in between, there are multiple steps to get to the point where the MEC has to look at your application. So I would urge parents that work within before it gets to that point. But in the previous academic year, we had less appeals that we have got into the MEC's office as opposed to the other years. So the engagement and the process in between the objections and appeals has been handled relatively well by our districts. We will continue our program and our program to intervene in high pressure areas. We'll continue with satellite schools, completing them, ensuring them they are up to the standards that is required. We'll continue with providing temporary structures, mobile classrooms. We'll continue with our self-build, and we'll continue with our program to build more schools quicker. So this intervention process will continue up until. So what I want to urge parents that your child will be placed. There's no child who will not get an offer to school, and who will not place a child at an unreasonable area or far from you. Will always consider your home address and the school nearest. And if schools are far and there are challenges, we also provide scholar transport in such instances, looking at different communities, because development moves. There's a lot of movement within our province, and new townships are established, and as and when those communities, we try our level best to support them to ensure that their children get to schools. So with that said, good luck to parents. From the 16th, we'll be placing the learners, and we are assuring them that all your kids will be placed in our schools, and have faith in every school that you place your child. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, MEC. We're now moving to Q&A. We'll give you an opportunity to ask questions, and we will take as you raise your hands. But I think we need to move from here to there. The transition. with transition, Mohammed. Okay. Cats 1. Uyabuza mbali 2. Ayisuceda masinya namhlanje. Okay.
A very good morning, MEC Katlao Sohoto from Newsroom Africa. MEC, when this year's, for next year's online admission process started, you said it's more user-friendly, there has been some improvements to the process online. Has there been any complaints from parents so far? And, or has it been relatively, are they happy with the process? MEC, every year we see challenges with parents in terms of, as you mentioned, parents have the choice of a maximum of 5 schools to place, but then even within those 5, sometimes parents come back and they say, this is not our preferred choice. Do you see that challenge happening again next year, and how do you intend to deal with it?
Morning, MEC. Mbalentle Mthethwa from SABC News. My question is pertaining to the schools that have received record applications and which exceeds the school's capacity. Isn't this an opportunity to then build more schools, given that the Gauteng province is growing exponentially every year? We do understand that even in the city of Johannesburg, it's expected to grow by 2% every year. Are there plans to build more schools?
Thanks very much, MEC.
Yeah, thank you. I need this.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We have plans to build more schools. In the immediate, we're increasing capacity in the existing schools through our self-build program, where we give schools money to build additional classes. It has been one of our more successful programs in increasing capacity in our schools. Secondly, we are also utilizing temporary structures which are called mobiles, which we utilize them to increase the capacities so that we can be able to absorb these learners within the framework of the current number of schools that we have. But however, with building new schools, we have a comprehensive program which is multi-pronged. We are using implementing agency. We've got a DBSA that's building some of our schools, which is going to complete by mid next year, June, the latest. We've got what we call a GIFA program, where we are building additional number of schools, which is in-house capacity that we are building as we're utilizing as a department ourselves. We've also got a number of schools, over 35 schools that are currently being completed through our implementing sister department, Department of Infrastructure. So this is a multi-pronged approach that we have utilized to ensure that we accelerate the building of schools as much as possible. So we have set up a very ambitious target of really, by end of term, having at least built more than at least 100 schools by end of term. That's 5 years. So it's ambitious so that we can increase our capacity to absorb. And these are not, because they are new schools, these are going to be new modern schools, ICT schools, all of them. So what I want to say to parents, obviously, it doesn't mean now, in our current format, we won't place learners. We will be continuing to place learners, utilizing our different avenues to ensure that we fully support the learners. So we anticipate similar problems, really, especially if the chosen schools by the parent, the child doesn't get placed in any of them. We anticipate that. So within the appeal, we are very reasonable. I'm very reasonable because there are some instances where it's not even the fault of the parent at all. It's the fault of the school or the fault of the district. I'm able to then say this appeal is approved. They must make sure that they place the learner at a particular school. So every appeal and objection it's informed by its reasonability. So there's been a number that have been approved. There've been a number that were not approved at the same time. So we do. That's a fact. We do anticipate quite a number of. There will be these challenges, and mostly later on, especially at the beginning of the year, because we've got that late application process that we open late. That is for spaces that are available wherever schools. Some parents utilize that process, apply, and then go to the district to go and march for a different school, because for them in their minds that my child is on the system. Because the child is on the system, therefore I can go and demand a different school. And that's why you see them marching. Most of them, they are marching. It's not because of it's not for these parents who are from this process. It's late applications and preference of schools. And unfortunately, at that point, we can't do much. At that point, parents must understand and accept that we will create space for a child because it's a constitutional obligation and a duty that every child of school-going age must be placed at a school. We will do that. But we might not satisfy your desire as a parent in terms of preference at that point. Because now the most important parents or learners that we'll be dealing with are these ones that have complied now in this process. These 766,000 applications, these are the ones that are important to us to ensure that we place them. Late, incomplete are going to be placed where spaces are available, and they don't have a choice in terms of preference or school. So we'll offer you a space, we'll give it to you as a parent that your child, Matsidiso Tlokenamo, and that's it. This is where we're offering the space, and this is the support we're putting in place for Matsidiso if the parent stays in a different community. There might be scholar transport, and there might be some form of informed by, obviously, home address. In terms of the system, so far, in the early days, the first 2-3 days, we were receiving good reviews. You could go on our social media, go back to the day when you opened the system. Parents were happy. They said the system was user-friendly, was efficient, especially if you've got all the necessary documents with you. So there's never really been a complaint thus far that has come forward about the system, except the 2 days where the system was down, the 9th of August and the early hours of the 10th of August. That's where the system was totally down and parents could not complete and apply, etc. So that's why we extended the 2 days, moving from the 12th to the 14th, giving them extra 48 hours to complete and apply. So overall, we've received good reviews.
Ladies and gentlemen, we end it here. Thanks very much.
Okay. Please speak yourself.
Dankie Chiloane.